As Rebecca said, today I'll be presenting sources, which is a new page for source document collection, but also for DFdiscover. And as the title hints, there's kind of going to be two parts to my presentation today. First, I want to talk about something called DevOps, what it is and how it's affecting our company. And also I want to talk about then the application that we've been making, sources, and introduce that to you. So first off, what is DevOps? DevOps is the combination of cultural philosophies, practices, and tools that increases, and I probably shouldn't put everybody to sleep right at the beginning of DFUG Day 2. So we're going to take this a different direction. What is DevOps for DFnet? Well, first of all, it's an experiment we're trying. Traditionally, we've been using something called the waterfall model, which is a little more structured as far as the order and the length of things, and it was built originally or designed originally for the manufacturing industry. DevOps is something that's been developed by many companies over the last few years, and it's really come to the front as a great way to be making software. So as a company in the software space, we want to be trying this out and seeing how it can help our company. Specifically, what is it? Well, it's internal processes and tools for us. It's changes in how we make software and the tools that we use to make the software. And the goal of DevOps is faster delivery. We want to be able to get the features and the things that you want out to you more quickly. So what does this mean to you? One of the focuses is on getting more releases. So hopefully more releases within a year, hopefully as often as monthly. This also means though that the releases will be smaller, fewer changes inside each release. This means that there will be less big in your face updates that come out with it. But also it means that the updates will be coming more quickly. And naturally, this means that there will be fewer large releases. We want to be focusing more on keeping up to date rather than getting the next big release out. And specifically what this means to you is that we're hoping to be able to respond using DevOps, respond to issues you have and requests you have for features more quickly. So as before, a new feature that you would find really useful may take 6 months or a year. You have to wait for the next big release of DFdiscover. In the future, what we hope to have happen is that if our community tells us that this is really, really important and that it would be really good to have, we can put it into the next release and you can have this new feature that you've requested within a month or two. And that's really the strength of DevOps. Now, with this focus on more releases, the concept of having the version number being the kind of the big defining feature of the software, or a big defining feature of the software, kind of goes away. And this is something that we're seeing in the industry. Think of your browser, think of your Office suite, or the applications on your phone. I know that there is a version to Chrome. I can tell you what version I'm currently running. I know where to go find it if I need it. And the same with the applications on my phone. This is becoming very common. And one of the reasons why this is so good in the software industry, yesterday we heard about all the new security threats that are coming out. We have got security problems coming out, new ones all the time. And if we have to wait a whole year for the next version of a software to come out with the fixes for those, that puts a lot of time for those security problems to be exploited. And so by keeping up to date with, or keeping the apps up to date and releasing quickly, it means that we can always stay as much as possible ahead of these new security issues. Also, software and computers update quickly. There's often new versions to Windows, Mac OS, to the computers you're using. And by having frequent releases and kind of keeping that idea of having DFdiscover rather than a specific version of DFdiscover, it means that you'll be able to trust that we will support those new softwares, the new laptops, the new platforms that you're hoping to deploy our software on, if not immediately, then very, very quickly. And the other reason why we're going this direction is because it's definitely the way that the mobile environment and the web works. Trying to release more than one version or have more than one version of an application available on the mobile app stores or the webs involves releasing or having more than one available on those stores at the time, or on the web at a time, which can be confusing for users. And so what we really want to do is move towards this idea that, especially as we add more into the mobile space and into the web space, we want to focus on this idea of DFdiscover is DFdiscover. And we want to move forward and be able to keep DFdiscover up to date as much as possible. Now, DFdiscover exists in a regulated industry, and that means that there's a lot more thought that needs to go into an update than something like the newest mobile game would necessarily need. And so because of that, I wanted to take a little bit of time in this to open up a discussion with you. I invite you to turn on your microphone, turn on your camera, and let's start a discussion right here, right now, about what can we do as the software vendors to help lighten the load of updating our software and to remove those roadblocks in your way of using the latest versions. What are the things that we can do, provide, the ways we can change the way we work so that it's not this huge daunting task getting onto the latest version of DFdiscover. So yeah, as I said, turn on your microphones. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you if possible. Dan?
Yeah, just like I put in the chat, if we could coordinate some way together to just be able to identify those areas like the underlying software functions or structures of things that might have changed and identify the direct sort of impacted areas, then we could, improve maybe the way that we do validation. At PHRI, we usually, upgrade every year or so, and we hadn't in the past little while. We're still at 2014, but going actually to DFdiscover 5.4.1 on Friday. But we do big validation, so the whole package, it takes several months actually from start to end of the validation process to align everybody to do all the different types of testing and user acceptance testing. So in a more frequent release sort of strategy, we'd have to, tune that massively in order to be able to evaluate, validate, identify, those components or those parts of DFdiscover that have changed and not spend time on things that aren't impacted. So, the release notes are good and you identify all the areas that sort of changed, or at least most of the major ones. But again, there's other times there's little changes here or there that come around sometimes that pose the odd problem. And just knowing exactly, almost like a regression testing, where the things have changed and what's your, how do you do regression testing? What are the things that you have found that are the impacted areas, and is there some way to be able to release that to the customer base, in a proper way, not, showing all your kitchen, but that we can validate more effectively.
So what I'm hearing, Dan, is that more clarity and more detail in what's changed, and also in the work that we've done to test and to validate our software. Is that a reasonable summary?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be like a public disclosure of all the stuff to the general populace, but maybe to the back end, like the IT teams or the people that are doing the work to validate. A relationship there that allows a good communication of the clarity of the stuff to look for. Because I think overall, as we test stuff, you have a huge potential of your customers out there doing testing to help actually find stuff early on and whatever. There's no one group can find everything, but together we tend to find little things that that are unique to each of our environments that work or don't work as expected. And then at the end of the day, you end up with a more solid product through all that effort from your customer base, I think. So
Yeah,
we're happy to do that. So, and just the collaboration there, I think, is an important part of the more frequent release basis.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And one of the focuses of DevOps is that discussion with the customer, discussion with the people who are using the software. How are they using it, and how is this affecting us? Rebecca, I can't see the others who have raised their hands. Would you be able to?
Sorry, I was
jump in. Aslam.
Yes, Aslam. Thanks,
Okay,
Eric.
Aslam.
Hi, thank you. Mine might be unique to our situation only. Each time when we ask our IT department to actually do an upgrade for us, we are told that we need to run the entire 80K on our side, and that it takes too much of time from our side. So I think something that's doesn't need an entire 80K run each time for us is my first requirement. And then something that's as easy as how when we update our client software, we just install the new executable and it's up and ready for us. Something that could be, and I know that's difficult, something that could be that easy on the server side as well.
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, there is no more hand raised,
right.
just for you to know, Jane.
All right, thank you.
We're
Rebecca.
I was about to read a comment from Marin saying, I don't know, JB, if you are seeing the chat, but many studies run for GR and any changes in behavior that aren't backwards compatible tend to break things.
Okay, so focus on making sure that changes we make are backwards compatible as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good comment.
You see that with Chrome breaking things from time to time, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing if your web browser doesn't work, but it's kind of something else when your trial stops working because that feature no longer exists or behaves differently, and you don't have the benefit of saying, well, that's too bad. It's kind of like you still need to collect this information, right?
Right, exactly.
It's critical.
And that's the difference, right? Chrome can put out something and say, oh, well, there's this small thing that broke. But obviously we're committed to making sure that our customers are able to continue running their studies. And so we need to have that communication and make sure that, if perchance one of these things does involve a change like that, we make it very clear and we have that discussion long before it becomes the software or the next update, right?
Right. And there's been a couple of those recently, right? So.
All right. Thank you very much.
No more comments or hand raised.
All right. And also, I'd like to encourage everyone. Obviously, this is something that you might need to think about for a little while. This is an open discussion. Please feel free to email us with your thoughts on it. Reach out to us at any time with kind of how we can help make this work for you.
And we have a message from Beacon. This presentation is timely for us. They just finished validating DFdiscover 2020, and they know that DF 2021 is available and trying to figure out how to validate and roll out DF 2021.
Eric, I see you raised your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. To speak to everyone, I guess we just participated in a webinar last week where the focus was partly on risk-based validation, right? So you're not revalidating everything, you're figuring out, and this is to Dan's point, you're figuring out exactly the things that impact you and doing a validation and evaluation based on that. This is in line with the FDA's thinking, right? They've been moving away from like a 2002 model where you have to do everything all the time. The FDA recognizes that having to do all of this all the time is going to get in the way of progress. So risk-based validation is effectively what came out of that webinar, was my takeaway. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Sorry.
All right. So as I said, feel free to reach out in the chat afterwards in emails to us with more thoughts on this and how, as I said, how we can support your company as we adopt this DevOps methodology. Yeah, so, and yes, I'm seeing the chat. That's the idea. You validate the delta. All right. Moving forward with the presentation, we're moving on next to the new application that we've made. So the new application is Sources. It's a source document collection application that really focuses, and what I want to bring you through is kind of the path that a document takes through Sources and show you the benefits of using Sources for collecting documents. So the basic path is this add, prepare, and then send. So we've got, first of all, the very straightforward way of adding documents is using your file picker. So you can go into your files, select the documents you want to add, and then they appear on the screen in the list, and you can see the little thumbnail of each of the images, and you can kind of get to work on them. But that's not the only way to get a document into Sources. Sources is a mobile application, and we allow you to take advantage of your camera. Now in the camera, we give you different ways of taking the pictures. The first is just the photo mode. You click the shutter button and it takes a picture, and that's what you get as a document. However, we recognize that many of the documents you'll be taking pictures of are paper. And so in a similar manner of many of the document scanning applications that you may have seen before, we intelligently detect the edges of the paper. And from that, we're able to kind of flatten out the image and crop the extra away so that you get the paper that you were looking for. And then finally, many documents are just black on white. And if you don't want to have to worry about the specific lighting affecting the quality of the image, we also provide a black and white document mode, which goes through and removes the color and just intelligently finds the black text and makes that stand out on your screen. So once you've got your documents in, whether from the file picker or from the camera, the next thing we can do is prepare the document. So we've got some big basic image editing functionality, increase the brightness, the grayscale. These are very useful when we're looking at pictures taken with the camera, especially if it's not a black and white document. Then being able to change the brightness, maybe set the grayscale, gives you the ability to get the document looking the way you would like it to. Also, the camera isn't the only time you're able to use this intelligent cropping and flattening technology. The skew functionality, as we're calling it, is available to be added to any document, any image. You can kind of select the corners of the document. You can set it yourself. You get this nice magnification view so that you can find exactly the corner that you're looking for. And then once you apply that, it is flattened out as we've seen previously. And then also here, there's the rotation ability, which is obviously helpful in all the ways you've used rotation before. Next up, we provide the ability to redact the images. So this is done as you drag your finger. It provides a little black line to show you where your finger has been. You can scribble out the area, but what happens is that it takes kind of the edges of the little scribble that you made, the top, bottom, left, and right, and turns that into a rectangle, which then when you send the document to the server will be replaced. Whereas here you can kind of see through it and have the ability to remove it. It will be replaced by an actual black rectangle and be fully redacted. Now this is a destructive redacting, which means it actually changes the image. This is good. It means that once the image is redacted, there is no way to get back the information that was underneath of it. So there's no chance that somebody could go in and pull the document and be able to look through the redactions that you've done and find the original information. Once you've applied the redactions, there's also the ability to mark a document as a certified copy. This is done by when you select the mark document as certified copy, you are presented with password dialog where you put in your login password. And then at the bottom of the document is a small message that marks it as a certified copy. This is not added over top of any of the content in the document. Instead, extra pixels are added to the bottom of the document where this text message is placed, so that there's no chance of you overwriting something important on the document itself. So after you've gone through all of this functionality, then the next step is getting this to the server. We provide a dialog where you're able to enter the place you want this to go to. You can select the study, the site, the subject, the visit, the plate, get it exactly onto the CRF that you're looking to add it to. Each of these fields is a drop down. It shows you what you have available based on your permissions. They're also searchable. So as you can see here, the subject 2, I wrote 2 in there, which shows me all of the subject IDs that have a 2 in them. This also works for text. So for instance, in the study, I could type Acme and it would show me the studies that have Acme in it, therefore allowing you to quickly find the exact set of keys that you need to send this document to where it's supposed to go. And then from there, you go back to the inbox and you can send all the documents. Now, one of the great benefits of this over using DFdiscover or DFweb or DFcollect to attach documents is that you don't have to go to each of those places individually. You don't have to go to subject 1, into the plate, add the document, back out, subject 2. Instead, you can set the specific keys that you need and you can send them off, and it will position them as needed in your study. All right, so finally, I wanted to do a short demo. So this is, I'm going to be sharing the screen of my iPad here. So bear with me as I get the screen share switched over to the iPad.
Mark Wessel, this is your cue to start singing.
Last chance.
Okay, we're seeing that. Let's switch into the application. All right, so we log in here. Sorry, no singing. It was a little too quick. So we switch in here and we can see the list of documents that I've already loaded. Wonderful, Zoom ignores the no notifications. All right, so we're going to move to take a picture of a document that I have here. As you can see, as I hold it over top, the move the desk around, but the document finds the corners exactly as it needed to, and we take the picture. And then from there, we can go back to our document list. You can see here that because we don't have the, we haven't set where it's supposed to go, we can't actually send it yet. We can go in and pick where we want. So from here, I want to put it in study 1, site 1. Let's put it in subject 4 and very beginning. And so it's that easy to put in the keys. Then from there, we look at this, we go, okay, so this is actually a grayscale image, which based on the lighting might not be too obvious, but we can actually put it back to grayscale. Increase the brightness a little so it's a little clearer. And then the edges weren't exactly right. So we could go in and fix all of those. Rather than making you wait for me to do each one individually, we'll just do those 2. And then it fixes the image. Now, obviously, there's no information on here, but I could comment out any part of this procedure description that I would like, perhaps there and there. And finally, I can mark it as a certified copy. We won't do that for this one though. And then from here, we hit send and we watch and it's away. And it's that easy. It's that easy to get your documents into DFdiscover. All right, so switching back to slides. All right. So thank you, everyone. Obviously, the next question is, where is this? When is it coming? This will be available for phones and tablets on the App Store and the Google Play Store on October 8th. And this will require the DFWS feature in your license in order to be able to use it. Thank you very much. And I think we have a few minutes for some questions.
Yep, thank you, JB. We have one question so far or a comment in the chat, and Aslam has the hand raised. So go Aslam, and I will read the question afterwards.
Hi, James. My question was just earlier on, I think I missed the portion where you actually said, if you have multiple photos for multiple subjects, how will it automatically put it individually, or would you have to specify? I thought you said that you don't have to specify which subjects it's going to go to. Can you just explain how that will happen again, please?
For sure. So you will have to specify that happen more quickly. For instance, it remembers the last set of, or the last place that you were at, so that the next time you open up the dialog, you'll put that information in there. And if all you're doing is changing, it's the same document, but for a different subject, you can quickly go in and change the subject and move on that way. What I was talking about was the fact that often in DFdiscover or in DFweb, if you're trying to put these documents in, there's a lot of navigation that needs to go on. You need to open up those specific CRFs in each subject, navigate in and out of each subject. Whereas here, it's as easy as opening a dialog, maybe changing one, maybe two numbers, closing it. And then when you go back to the list, you just hit the send button on all the documents you'd like to send.
Okay, understood, is saying Aslam on the chat. And we have a comment from Dan. JB, not sure if you were monitoring the chat at some point, so I'm not sure if you saw it, but he's mentioning that as a DFUG community, we could have an ongoing validation related reference study, something like the ATK, but more extensive, with the ability to test and preset series of operations, unexpected outcomes, and statistical analysis results that can be used to ensure that completeness and correctness of data studies maintained through a new release. Not reference study, but reference study.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Dan.
Mm-hmm. And Lisa is also dropping a question here. So unlike the DFsend, where someone simply needs access to the server, not a particular study, here for the user, you need to specify study and site in DFadmin, right?
Yes. So in this one, the user will need access to all of the locations that you'll be sending these documents. And then, unlike DFsend, also you're able to attach any sort of document. So DICOM images, PDFs, videos, audio files, all of these can be, anything that DFdiscover can accept can be sent through sources.
Okay, thanks. I love the drop down where I could just start typing Acme and it will, oh, anything with Acme or two. So it'll be smart enough to restrict it. So if I don't have Acme access, I won't see that, or I won't see things that I shouldn't see.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood that. Yes, so this is all based on your permissions. And so if you only have permission for one study and one site, those are actually automatically filled in for you. If you have access to only 5 studies, or 5 subjects, that is all you'll ever see in those in that dialogue. Thank you to everybody for your comments and for the discussion we had, and also for your questions. As always, you can reach out in the chat afterwards if you suddenly think of another question you'd like to pose.
Great. Thanks, JB.